Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you access knowledge about the latest policy trends, discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe, find solutions in our peer review, get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform webinar series on cultural roots and itineraries. This is our second webinar in the series of 3, and we are focusing today on reviving of cultural roots. My name is Magda Michaliková, and I am a thematic expert for environment and resource efficiency at the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. I would also like to welcome my expert colleagues, Astrid Severin, who is also a thematic expert for environment and resource efficiency, and Lotte van Meel from our communications team. Before we start, just a couple of housekeeping rules. We are recording this webinar, and the recordings will be available later online, also with all the presentations that you will see today. Please don't be shy and write any questions you might have in the chat. In the chat, we will also be posting useful information and links throughout the webinar. At the end of this webinar, we will share a survey to give where you can give us feedback, which we value very highly. And the link to this survey will be posted in the chat as well. So to get to know you a little bit as well, we have prepared 2 polls, which we will launch now. The first poll is asking what type of organization you are coming from. Maybe you are from an EU institution. Maybe you're coming from a local, regional, or national authority. We may have some participants from a tourism organization, from NGO or fund, academia, or other. Please let us know in the chat as well, where are you coming from? Okay, so we can see that we have majority of local, regional, and national authorities, so that's great. And we also have some representatives of other organizations. And in the second poll, we are asking for the main interests that you had to attend this workshop. So maybe it's because you're interested in reviving of cultural roots, in establishing new cultural roots and itineraries in your cities, creating new tourism offers, or finding new ways to attract visitors. So please let us know. And we can see that all of these are of interest to you, which is great because all of these topics will be covered in today's webinar. So thank you very much. And then I would ask Astrid to share the presentation, please. Thank you. So I would just briefly take you through the agenda of today. After this introduction round, we will have a keynote presentation from Mariachiara Esposito from the European Commission. Welcome, Mariachiara. and she will have a presentation on sustainability and resilience through stronger cultural heritage policies. After the keynote presentation, you're of course feel free to ask any questions, and Mariachiara will happily answer them after the presentation. And in the next block, we will look at the Interreg Europe policy changes and good practices. We will have a presentation on route of the coffee smuggling from Sofia Martins from the Marbella municipality in Portugal. Mr. Matouš Radimec will take us on the roads of Reformation, and Mr. Luciano Toriello will take us to a film festival on cultural routes in Italy. And of course, again, please ask any questions you may have. We will have time to answer them, to also have a little discussion. Next slide, please. So for Interreg Europe, as you know, we are now in the next phase. We have a program budget of 379 million euros and 29 involved countries and one overreaching priority, which is dedicated to capacity building. In this cross-cutting priority has 6 topics and something called a concentration principle, where we focus with 80% on 3 of those topics, and these are smart, green, and social. But we also cover connected citizens and governance topics. The first call for projects closed on at the end of May this year, and we already have some results of that call. And as you can see, according to this principle, we have the majority of smart, green, and social projects. And there were 134 project proposals and over 1,000 partners coming from all partner states. Next slide, please. And what may be interesting to you is that the second call will be launched from 15th of March to 9th of June next year. And there are some online networking events taking place in November and December this year. So you can see here respective dates for the respective topics. And the call launch event will be on the 15th of March in Stockholm. And when it comes to the policy learning platform, we of course offer many services, including educational ones such as this one. They are focused on expert support. And one of these services is a peer review. And I would like to just bring this to your attention that you can always apply for a peer review. It is very simple process. You just need to fill in. Do have experience with peer reviews on culture topics as well. In this case, we had a peer review for the city of Antwerp in Belgium, and they were trying to solve their challenge regarding the revival of Fortress Belt's network in Antwerp. And we've addressed challenges such as how to set up a sustainable restart for the Fortress Belt, or how to create strong branding and governance structure. And in this slide, just wanted to share a couple of resources that you can maybe access after this event is over. We have relevant policy briefs, stories, and of course, many good practices in the good practices database. And lastly, just want to bring your attention to a third webinar of our book, where we will look at water-linked heritage and how inspiring policy actions were created through the project of VAVE. and also just sharing some of our past events that might be interesting for you. So this is all from me. Thank you very much. And now I would like keynote speaker. I am Mariachiara from the European Commission, DG for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. Mariachiara, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Magda, very much, Astrid and all colleagues. I'm very pleased to be participating in this event. I represent the DG on Education and Culture, and I work at the Cultural Policy Unit, particularly on cultural heritage and sustainability issues. If you go to the first slide. So I will try to give them an overview of our most recent updates in the context of the developments that also at the European and international level took place around the topic of the cultural dimension of sustainable development. So culture linked to sustainability, but also resilience of cultural heritage against the big challenges such as climate change, biodiversity, and environmental issues. Just to give you an idea of what has been recently reiterated in terms of data in the context of the debate at Mondiacult from UNESCO, you can see the overall jobs represent 48 million in the cultural and creative sector, which correspond to 6.2% of all employment and 3.1% of the global GDP. This is to give an idea of the, of course, relevance of the sector and the extent to which the issue of sustainability and resilience become increasingly important. Also in respect to generations, because the largest number of young people under 30 is included in the cultural and creative sectors in terms of opportunities provided to this segment of society. And one of the most important recent evolutions in the field of cultural cooperation at international level since the discussion at UNESCO of Mondiacult is the decision that from 2025, every 4 years, there will be a World Forum on Cultural Policies based on a preliminary World Report on Cultural Policies at global level. So this really gives you the, first of all, the global picture in which we are now discussing. Next slide, please. In this context, and having a look at the mission have been linked to the cultural dimension of sustainability, it's important to is coming to an end and that will be renewed as of 2023. And under this work plan, we received a mandate to launch discussion and to launch an expert group of member states that produced a report on good practices about how culture is integrated in national strategies for sustainability. And these recommendations are target both member states and the EU on how to improve the effectiveness and the impact of European policies and instruments on culture and sustainable development, but also how to better interconnect our policies at European level with the ones of the international organizations with whom we cooperate, like UNESCO, but also on the other side with regional stakeholders and projects that we fund and that are crucial for, let's say, the increase in the integration of culture within sustainability policies. Next slide. So we published this report of the working group of experts of member states that we cooperated with as a commission. We are the secretariat of this tool, which is a methodology where member states exchange information and practices, and together with the commission, identify main messages and recommendations to the policymakers. And this group identified 11 main messages as areas for transformation under this report, which is entitled Stormy Times, Nature and Humans, Cultural Courage for Change, where the cultural courage represents the capacity of institutions to better direct cultural funds and cultural investment and policies towards sustainability and sustainable development goals through a number of key strategic initiatives that are identified in these areas, ranging from the economic to the social to the environmental dimension. And it focuses very much on the underused power of culture in the different sectors where we see that culture is essential. And this was done on one side, as I said, in view of the Mondial Cult event that took place at the end of September, where there was a historic final declaration adopted regarding the new role of culture, in particular for its recognition of a global public good. And there was the request to include culture as an independent goal in the SDGs, but also linked to the work that the Commission is bringing forward and that will also be adopted this year. We are looking forward to publish this report in December on the cultural dimension of sustainable development in EU action. So this will be a parallel analysis to one of the member states on how the dimension of sustainable development is intersected by cultural assets in all the different areas that we have analyzed. And as you can see in the next slide, okay, this is just the report visual that you can see, and it's also available on our website. But if you go to the next slide, you see how the approach of this report regarded, let's say, the different engagement that are requested not only by policy makers, but also by scientists, artists, and cultural professionals. So we, the member states analyzed examples of sectors where a number of platforms with crucial stakeholders are already existing, but advocated for more holistic and more interdisciplinary exchanges between these key actors that are all that are all protagonists of the possibility to leverage the potential of culture. So really the main message of the report is to invert this trend of the underused power of culture, and also to create a better policy framework where time for action is now. And really the report shows with a number of scientific data how the challenges of climate change and sustainability are threatening not only the planet, but also the relationship between human beings, in terms of postponing always to the future what we need to do, and requires urgent action. And it does this through a number of best practices also undertaken by multi-stakeholders projects that exist at the transnational level between the cooperation that was undertaken since many years across cultural and creative organizations. Next slide, please. And indeed, it shows, thanks to the cooperation with independent scientists that were nominated by the UN under a group of experts that analyzed the areas of sustainability where there is a space for transition through culture, how all the main economic systems, so the general one, the one on food, the one on energy, the one on urban regeneration and urban policies, are cross-cutted by cultural main features that help to use the global environmental commons in order to increase the capacity of well-being and capabilities. So this is the horizontal approach where, if you go to the next slide, you see that indeed all these systems can have a cultural concept at their core, and these are the policies that are analyzed also in the Commission upcoming report, where we indeed go through different policy areas of services that use culture for sustainable development, but in order to indeed work on Green Deal strategies, environmental goals, urban regeneration, nutrition, well-being, through the use of these concepts that are all driven by the engagement that only at the basis of the cultural policies can come from. So we really stress how culture is not an enabler, but is really a driver of resilience and sustainability. And in the next slide, we can look at another very important topic that we analyzed in connection to this work on the cultural dimension of sustainable development just a few years ago on the topic of cultural tourism. And this other group of member states defined a concept of sustainable cultural tourism as the integrated management of cultural heritage and tourism activities in conjunction with the local community. So you see how the local community is put at the center of the recommendations and of the suggestions that this group made to create social, environmental, and economic benefits for the community through both working on tangible and intangible cultural heritage, conservation, as well as development. So tourism is strongly linked to the valorization of the heritage assets. And there was already an emphasis on the forward-looking perspective of the SDGs. So this ties well with our previous work of the last years, where we are trying to push for a more careful strategic planning of cultural policies within the big scheme of topical challenges that are prioritized at EU level. I think there is still one or two final slides. I can't remember now because you are sharing them. If you can move to the next slide, voila. I just wanted to, now it's gone. There was a final slide. Voila, where I just wanted to give you also an overview of some other interrelated policy developments that we are working on in the field of sustainability, of course, but linked to the initiative that the Commission has launched 2 years ago for the new European Bauhaus, which is also a way to, let's say, encourage all cultural professionals, but together with institutions and local authorities, to use the leverage of culture through different means that make the Green Deal tangible at the level of interregional cooperation, urban regeneration, quality of space, quality of life. And this is done also in mainstreaming the NEB principles in the Creative Europe program. There was a call this year for creative innovation labs, where the topic of innovation in sustainability and linked to this approach of using transdisciplinarity and cooperation between culture and other disciplines and sectors, from arts to architecture to design, but very much also in cooperation with urban planners, engineers, and regenerators, to develop projects that have artists' concerns at their heart. And we also launched a program called Culture Moves Europe, which is a very recent initiative that opens up opportunities for artist residencies, so artistic cooperation, but also cultural professional mobilizations to implement the European Bauhaus vision. And here you have links to another important report. Now I see my time is running fast, so I will not go further. You can ask me questions. Just to tell you that in the field of resilience, and particularly under the heading of climate change, we also publish this more specific report on cultural heritage resilience against the climate change concerns and disasters and threats, where there are recommendations for policies that should invest in research for better mitigation and support to climate action through culture. So I really encourage you to also have a look at this other report, which is really, really dramatic and alerting, I would say, in terms of data and needs of all the community that can leverage culture to do so, and to connect it to Green Deal and climate change and sustainability objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariachiara, for a very interesting presentation on the importance of culture and culture change in transition to more sustainable society. And thank you also for sharing all the interesting reports and publications and initiatives that you have. So do we have any questions from our panelists or from the audience? I don't see any questions in the chat. Yes, Astrid?
Yeah, may I, since other people are still thinking very hard or typing away in the chat what questions they have. So thank you very much, Mariachiara, for this interesting presentation. There's a lot going on in terms of sustainability and resilience for cultural heritage. So we see that you're developing international and European and national strategies. That is really good to hear. It's high up on the political agenda. My question would firstly relate to, so how can regions and local authorities get involved? What can they do? How can they, for example, contribute with some good practices as the kind of we are hearing here today? And we have many other cultural roots, for example, in the audience. I've seen from Malta, from Slovenia, from Germany, from Italy, from Ireland and Wales. So excellent audience here. So how can regions and local authorities get involved?
Should I? Okay, no, I don't know if you wanted to also group other questions, or I go directly on this. Okay. Yes, this is let's say a fundamental question that we try to answer daily in our work. Of course, you know, there are a number of instruments. Some of them are not managed directly but by the Commission, but they are mainly managed at the level of regional authorities, and they lie in the cohesion funds, particularly when it comes, for example, to the European Regional Development Fund. You might know that there are two main objectives since the new programming period that invite regions to invest in culture and tourism, but with a stronger accent on the importance of cultural heritage to drive sustainable goals, sustainable development goals, and sustainability at large. And more, there is monitoring from the Commission to kind of push for a holistic approach where all regions, independently from, let's say, the more specific interventions, that they take into account the connection between investing in culture and the effect that this can provoke on sustainability. So I think the question is even beyond how they can get involved, somehow is how they can contribute to these strategies. So in terms of getting the opportunities, but also achieving the outcomes that are established at as European priorities, but are also, let's say, declined as objectives of all policies. So what Mondia Cult also stressed very much, and also our report of the OMC identified, is the level of dematerialized engagement, where different groups should start to talk to each other in a different way. So not only, let's say, academics cooperating with academics or regional authorities cooperating with other regional authorities, but more and more a sort of a cross-fertilization approach where the capacity and regions are very strong. Some regions are very strong in doing this because we can all learn from regions that have a tradition in the capacity of having a dialogue also with research stakeholders, with scientists, and also helping the communities to feel empowered, to feel engaged, and to digest what is, let's say, the policy jargon, or what are the data that are driven from scientific reports, into understanding of how also the commitment of citizens and of cultural professionals can contribute to use culture. In our report, for example, we also put an emphasis on the role of local actors to cooperate with artists, so to involve artists in their projects, and especially to showcase how the artistic and creative movement that can happen at a regional and urban level is a driver for social behavioral changes, so for cultural new mindsets. So it's when it comes to the Green Deal, it's very much about also, let's say, training the communities and fostering an awareness by everyone through cultural dynamics and cultural phenomenon that can mobilize the interest of citizenship towards the appropriation of heritage and toward the appropriation of environment. So it's really a link that regions can help us to do in a more substantial and practical way. And I also want to stress more at the level of programs and opportunities that we continue to try, and we will do so also in the next work plan for culture as of next year, to have actions where peer learning, support to pilot projects, involvement of citizen regions in direct funds by the Commission through, for example, not only Creative Europe, that I guess is well known to all cultural professionals, but also other programs like Horizon Europe, Digital Europe, InvestEU projects that are targeting issues of digitalization, which are also very, very relevant to the transition that we are observing. So there are enormous opportunities for the communities to use cultural heritage also in research and innovation programs, which is really an asset where I think that region are some of the European regions are champions, and maybe can help also through these peer learning activities that we promote to share with other regions, let's say, the experience and the capacity of designing better policies that use culture in a more substantial way. So I think this is a bit the general encouragement and role that regions should really use more and more.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your explanations and for pointing at the different also programs. May I ask a second short question?
Sure.
Just to say that at Interreg Europe, we are offering opportunities through the peer review, which is a very good instrument which can be used already. So maybe you can we can give you a little bit of information about that, and you can maybe offer it to your stakeholders. And we can also contribute with a lot of interesting good practices, as you will see today, also how artists are working together with cultural heritage and how these communities are coming together. Second question would be, since I don't see it in the chat, which is a mystery to me. So last time when we had a digitalization of heritage webinar last week, we were, of course, asked what are the main opportunities for funding. You have already mentioned the Cohesion Fund, the ERDF, and so on. Is there any other specific instruments that you could point at with the question for a very short answer, please?
Well, I have to be very, very honest, but these policies are not in the hands of our units. So when it comes to specific instruments, then this is more a question that should be directed to representatives of DigiConnect. So just this to tell you that this is really something as a policy also for heritage. Digital dimension of heritage is managed by DigiConnect, which also manages Digital Europe. So that is the main framework for intervention and for cooperation on digitalization. Then, of course, as I said before, it's a transversal topic. So even in the cluster 2 of Horizon Europe, there will be more and more calls for using cultural heritage through new digital technologies and for involving cultural stakeholders. And this, again, is managed not by us, directly by DG Research, but still there, as compared to the topic of Digital Europe, which is entirely managed by DigiConnect, Horizon Europe is co-created with us. So there are a few topics. For example, we are in charge of the new European Bauhaus action in cluster 2, and we also cooperate with the colleagues in DG Research for drafting the upcoming work programs. So I can tell you that there will be a lot of emphasis on digital transformations, but maybe it would be good if there are, also bottom-up projects and suggestions when indeed, as you said, at this discussions level, that we can maybe advise more precisely. Otherwise, the question is very general. So that's why I have to be
general as well. No, it's
yeah, I
true.
have to be, let's say, in line with the fact that we are not in charge of the digital policies for heritage. So this is we have groups of stakeholders there as well. So we had a working group on analyzing the dimension of digital transition and digital audiences, but we don't define the programs themselves. So it's more in the hands of those colleagues. And maybe just for you to know, but this I think is also quite well-known information. Generally speaking, there is a new kick where there will be a lot of opportunities in the future years. This is just starting. It has been launched also in the framework of Horizon Europe. And it's a knowledge and innovation community on creativity and cultural heritage, creativity and cultural heritage. So there, for sure, you should also look for cooperation, strengths, and opportunities for funding. But again, this is other units that are in charge.
Of course, but thank you very much for giving this overview. It's always a very important point for people when they have good activities, good ideas, and then they look for funding. Where can they turn to? So thank you very much for this. This is all for me. So I'll give back the word to Magda.
Thank you, Astrid, and thank you, Mariachiara. There's just one last question, but for the sake of time, I will ask you to keep the answer very short. And the question is from Anke Biedenkap, who is asking how to react if the local authorities and politicians don't have interest to act in these fields. So in the field of
how to react.
How to react if the local authorities and politicians are not interested to act in the fields of in these fields that you were talking about.
May I ask who is this question from? Because I don't understand the type of question. Just the content is not clear to me. So maybe it's helpful if I know what kind of authority is asking.
So maybe Anke, if you can rephrase the question and we can come back to it later. And at the end,
or maybe our speakers can think about it, how they have actually been motivating their politicians to participate in their activities.
How to okay, so I better understand. No, it's just what I wanted to understand in what kind of gap, like motivation missing from beneficiaries or from citizens. What kind of perspective is the one that is expressed. And normally when we receive questions, there is always the person who asks to present himself or herself. So that's why I was asking. But yes, this is a too general question to give a short answer. So of course, it depends on, first of all, on who you are and how the dynamics takes place between your organization and the regional leaders. So you can have different means at your disposal that range from mobilization, campaigns, or whatever can get you closer, mobilizing cultural organizations to address authorities themselves. So we receive, for example, sometimes also questions in terms of supporting MEPs that ask how something that is not managed at national level could be complemented by the European level. So there are many different means. It's really a bit vague for me to understand this question.
Okay, thank you very much. So now I would like to ask Sofia Martins to share her presentations on the roads of the coffee smuggling. Please, Sofia, the floor is yours.
I'm sharing. Thank you so much for the invitation and this opportunity to present this good practice of RAMSAT project. We are talking about now at the involvement of local authorities, and this is an example of the involvement of a local authority and a regional authority. The root of the coffee smuggling, I can say that is a tribute to the smugglers that in the dictatorship period faced prison sentence due to the fact that wants to sell coffee to Spain, and this route is near to the border with Spain. But there is something that it was very simple to implement and is a tribute to the smugglers, but also a route that wants to present history, present the culture of the region, especially the one near the border, but also the traditions and also all the nature of the region. In terms of the location, this route is located in Portugal, in the region of Alentejo, and more specifically in the municipality of Marvão. The main organizer is the municipality also, but taking in consideration that they need a lot of stakeholders and the regional entities also in order to make this project more visible. And an example of this is the integration of these specific routes in another project with another route. For instance, in the more nature routes, they also integrate this route in order to have a synergy between projects regarding nature and projects regarding culture. The first edition will take place in 2008, and one of the things that we notice is more each year that passes, we have more international participants that wants to, at this moment, tourists wants to know more about the history of the places, but not only history. It's a combined type of tourism. They want to know history, they want to take part of nature activities. So this kind of initiatives is something that in the region of Alto Alentejo is being promoted. That's why also that they have all this synergy between projects and between routes, because the tourist doesn't want just one thing. They want a combination of things and products. So in terms of this thematic route, the objectives was to promote and to preserve the natural heritage of the region, and specifically the one next to the border with Spain. Also to preserve the cultural heritage and the history, because it's important to know our history, and this is something that they want to preserve. also to maintain the gastronomic traditions, and an important thing is to promote physical exercise. So there are a lot of things happening in this route. Also to attract Portuguese and Spanish tourists besides the other countries' tourists, but we need to also to attract our own border tourists, and in this case, specific focus to the Portuguese and the Spanish, and also to fortify the links with our beloved Spanish neighbors. It's one of the objectives too. Just a moment. Okay. So the root of the coffee smuggling, in terms of what the people that is going to participate the needs, they don't need a lot of things. It is possible to make the walking in the route all the year, but the specific routes with someone explaining what happened there, all the characteristics, all the history of the route. In May, the municipality makes available this feature, but anyone can go and do the route in all the year time frame. Of course, it's more difficult on winter, and sometimes in summer is also difficult because of the hot, but there is no restriction, and there are several platforms and tools where the route is available, so people can check the route and the distance and so on. In 2019, we have 200 participants in the routes. In this is this number is regarding the month of May, since in the other ones we don't have all the information. One of the things is that this route is integrated in another project, that is the Alentejo Feel Nature, that are installing sensors in specific paths and routes in order to check how many people are walking and are in the region. But at this moment, this route is not with that features at the moment. We hope that very soon it's going to be, but at this moment, this is the data related to the participation in May. In terms of potential for learning and transfer of this good practice, in terms of investment, they don't need a lot of investment. We are talking about 2,000 euros per year, more focus on the month of May. There is staff allocated to perform. Of course, they need the contribution and the support of regional entities like CIMA, that is the intermunicipal community of Alentejo, that promotes
Sofia?
Yes, I think we have lost Sofia, probably some connection issue. So perhaps we can, well, move to the next presentation, and then when Sofia is back, we will revisit her presentation and let her finish. So let's see. Okay, she's coming back now. Sofia, you're muted. And we have lost you before.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I'm going to share again. Okay. Sorry for that.
And
So
I will ask you to speed up a little bit.
Okay.
The rest of the presentation. Thank you very much.
I was talking about the potential of learning and transfer. I think that you heard that part. Okay. So I'm going forward, and once again, so sorry. So in here we can see the integration of these routes in another project, and this is the Alentejo Feel Nature, and in the specific routes for nature. And so in here, the objective of promote and preserve the natural heritage is something that this route wants to comply. In here, more pictures about this specific route. Also to mainstream the gastronomic traditions, and in here we are talking about coffee and one specific dish that is migas, bread migas. Also, there are 13 kilometers walking. The terrain is irregular, but we can see all the features of the region, such as the cork oat and so on. Also, the promotion of the physical exercise that nowadays is so important also. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the route is a tribute to the old smugglers of the border area who along this walk still recount their adventures, because we still have some smugglers that are alive. So we can sometimes count with their direct knowledge, and they can speak in the first person about all the histories that occur in that region. Also to promote the cultural heritage and the traditions of the region and of the municipality. To fortify the links with our Spanish borders. We are a municipality in the borders, so we want to have good connections, and we together have a lot of history. So let's present it, this history of the two countries. In here, some photo of the nature of the region, with a lot of also species that can be seen, and also the attraction of Portuguese and Spanish tourism to this region.
Sophia, here, I would like to just ask you to conclude. Thank you very much.
Yes, in here just some pictures about the tools where the route is being presented. So in here it is. So thank you so much. And my apologies for that problem.
No worries. You came back quite fast, so that sometimes happens. Thank you very much, anyways, for a very interesting presentation. It looks very beautiful, perhaps future holiday destinations for a lot of us. And I will ask if we have any questions for Sofia. And if not, I don't see anything in the chat. You can still think about them, and we can perhaps take them afterwards. Yes, Astrid?
Yeah, I can ask you something. So my question was that you have been bringing together lots of different aspects. You have history, nature, you have also even the old smugglers, which are telling their stories, gastronomy, of course. So how did you start that? How did this group come together to come up with the idea to have this coffee smuggling road, which sounds excellent to me?
The idea starts with the municipality, with the local authority wants to promote the history of the municipality, that is the history of the region. So it was a political idea that wants to promote the history of the region. So it was a local authority that sparks this process, and then it asked all the stakeholders of the region and the people that was part of the history, so that they can contribute, and the people that are more dedicated to history issues, so museums and so on, so that they can contribute to give information, how to identify the route and so on. But it was the municipality that decided to present the history of the municipality and the region.
Very good. And was it also the municipality who financed some of the things, like, for example, this app that you showed at the end, where you can follow the road or...
Yeah, the app from another project, actually a good practice also of RAMSAT project, that is the Untitled Nature. And in this project, they identified several routes in the territory, taking in consideration nature, but this route as nature as history, so they integrated in this platform all the information regarding this specific route in order to have synergy between all the various projects of the region.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I got most of it, so I think it was only interrupted once a little bit. But thank you very much. It's very interesting to hear how you use different sources also for financing, cross-fertilizing also the funding. Very good. I think we have a question from Magdeburg, I think. Magda.
Yes. Yes, we have a question from Josephine from the city of Magdeburg. Thanks for presenting this very interesting practice. Maybe the visitor numbers could even be improved through organizing topic-related events for the communities. Which kinds of events have you been organizing so far?
In the region, there are several events, but for this specific route, the only thing that the municipality do in terms of events is to have their open and their availability to have dedicated staff that tells the history on May. So they open for May the registration for specific tourists to make to walk the route with a person that is going to be with them, explain all the things that happen and all the history. In May, that is the dedicated month. Well, the route is presented, for instance, by CIMA, that is an intermunicipality community, when they are presenting other projects of the region. So they make this communication activity regarding the route. But until from this moment, that's it. And there's not a lot of investment from the municipality. So.
Okay, thank you very much. There's also another question from Isabel Ferrer Garcia. How do you involve local people as storytellers? Do you have any specific action or strategy for that?
Well, the only strategy is that staff from the municipality ask directly to people, because there is not a big municipality, so everyone knows everyone. So they know who they are, and it's like go speak to the person and that's it. It's a very easy strategy because it's a small municipality, so it's easier to know the people, to go directly speak to them.
Yes, that definitely makes things easier. Okay, thank you, Sofia, very much.
And they really enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I would like to ask Matouš Radimec to share his presentation on roads of Reformation. So please, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you see my presentation, and I also thank for the opportunity to present our culture route. So good afternoon again. My name is Matouš Radimec. I come from the regional agency of South Bohemia in Czech Republic. And I would like to present to you a good practice example that was identified within Interreg Europe project called MOMAR. Oh, sorry. Just shortly, MOMAR was a project aimed on the management models of cultural, natural, and even industrial heritage, especially or in rural areas. The project partners, the lead partner was the provincial government of Zaragoza in Spain, us as a regional development agency, Mehedinci county in Romania, the province of Groningen, and the Ministry of Transport and Digitalization of Saxony-Anhalt in Germany. So within this partnership, several good practices were identified, and one of them was Roots of Reformation, which we found it is worth sharing with other partners and also with other people interested in it across Europe. So let me tell me a few words about that. So Roots of Reformation itself started as an Interreg Central Europe project under the name ECRR, which stood for European Cultural Route of Reformation. The focus of this project was to create a cultural route that would link sites, organizations, events, customs linked to the Reformation movement in Europe across its whole history, which ranges from the 12th centuries in Italy till today. One of the aims was also to create the cultural route, to have the brand and have it certified at the Council of Europe to become one of the certified cultural routes. Just for information, there are over 40 certified cultural routes in Europe, certified by Council of Europe. The topic was actually picked by our German partners when the project was starting, because in central Germany, let's say, there are a lot of places linked to Reformation, which actually presents not only religious, but also social and cultural phenomenon that actually influence the history of Europe till today, and provide a lot of common cultural heritage to many nations in Europe. So in the end, we was actually successful, and the route was certified in 2019, which actually means that it's under recertification process in the nowadays. Now. Okay, what is the roots of Reformation? Because the Reformation, the history of Reformation in Europe is very diverse, and unlike many other cultural routes, it cannot be linked via a single trail or any kind of trail. I prepared a simple map where you can see some centers of Reformation movement in Europe in different times in history, and you might see that it would be very difficult to connect them, and moreover they are not like temporarily or timely coming one after another, so the line would be just zigzagging the whole Europe, which doesn't make sense. So in the end, we decided to create an archipelago culture route, which means actually what you see on the map. Originally, there were 11 partners, and they become the founding members. And at the time of establishment, it had 30 founding members. Currently, the route includes 40 full members from 8 countries. And we plan to expand. There are some candidates from United Kingdom, from Sweden, from Estonia, and other countries. As I mentioned it, and regarding the membership, the Roots of Reformation includes actual sites, but also museums, local trails, which, for example, means that we cooperate with Way of the Book, Weg des Buches in German, which runs through Austria. The members also include individual churches and parishes, and also other places linked to Reformation. Regarding the space distribution, it ranges from Torino area in Western Italy, over Slovenia, Austria, towards Eastern Hungary, and of course to Germany, to Central Germany area, where the Reformation was very strong why our members actually entered the route? Because it allows to share experience. Because there are a lot of institutions that share that are of the same time. For example, let's say museums. And these museums don't have links, didn't have links before among each other, and the cooperation, the membership in the Roots of Reformation enable them to actually cooperate, to, for example, share expert opinions, or just simply to start some kind of cooperation. Of course, they can share also the experience with innovation, including tourism products or services, portfolios. Also, it enables to attract wider ranges of visitors that compared to what the individual sites would attract. Also, the members benefit from the common visual marketing and social media activities, and they can participate to events, fairs, and so on, which are attended by the route itself. At this point, I can, for example, mention the quite well-known ITB event in Berlin, which is an international tourism fair, and which is, I would say, mostly difficult to access by individual sites because it's quite, the space is full and the entrance fee is not low. While the route of Reformation as a whole can be present and actually provide a platform for the individual sites to be presented. That's actually the next point, that this kind of event, for example, wouldn't be able for the individual sites. Also, the members can share knowledge how to support local communities when involved in the services or tourism products provided to the visitors of the route. And one of the points was also to enhance the educational potential, since some of the sites are also serving for schools or for students, some of them even for experts, to actually increase their knowledge and contribute to the education process.
Matouš, I will ask you to speed up a little bit and conclude, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Regarding the finances, which are usually of interest for people, so the initial project, the initial structure was supported by that ECR project, which amounted to over €2 million. But after that, the route works solely on membership fees, which amount to €10,000 annually, and it is dependent on the size and the organization type. And it ranges for 50 to €1,000, which is 50 for individuals and 1,000 for large metropolitan areas and regions. The income is used for the participation of events, being it, for example, the tourism fairs, Council of Europe advisory or annually forums, or to discuss with the individual candidates or members. Also, it's used for communication, production, promotion, and of the newsletter, and sometimes, not very often, but sometimes also for physical items, being it leaflets, beach flags, and so on. And also, we had to rebuild our website to be fast and responsive. These are just a few pictures. I wanted to just at the end, this is my last slide, that we think that cultural routes are great models to actually connect the sites, to make smaller sites more visible, get them connected with larger institutions, to provide them with knowledge, with experience, management models, and so on. And so for us, we think that the cultural roots have a future. Thank you very much for attention. Here you can see the website of the root, and I would be happy to answer any questions that might appear. Thank you.
Thank you, Matouš. Very interesting concept of collaboration between, well, many countries. So that is something that's a little bit different from the first example that we've seen. So do we have any questions for Matouš?
Oh, let me jump in while people are thinking again about questions. So Matouš, you presented at the beginning that you have actually been wanting to achieve the certification from the Council of Europe. Why was that? And has it helped you in any way? For example, with the promotion or to get more members into your network? How did it help you?
Because the Reformation is quite cross-cutting topic, we considered the certification as quite logical step towards to make the route actually visible, to be in the club of certified culture routes, which definitely helps the promotion. So for the project of that kind, it was a great success to actually achieve the certification. It's not it doesn't happen very often. However, the certification happened, or the project ended in 2019. And before we could start any larger promotion activities, being visible and so on, the COVID stepped in. And it somehow, let's say, postponed a lot of activities. So for now, I can't say if the certification actually really helped the route to thrive, but I think it definitely helps to increase the visibility of the route. And yeah.
And do you think it would be especially useful for like this kind of cross-border approach where you involve many countries, or would you recommend it for anybody who makes a cultural route to say, okay, let's get certified? It must take also quite some effort to get the certification, no?
Yeah. I'm not sure about the criteria because it's quite long ago, but there are some criteria regarding like multi-country involvement in the cultural route. So I'm not sure, I'm not an expert, but I think that the route must be somehow larger to include more countries than one or two. But well, I'm not an expert, don't take it for granted, but yeah. I think when we are talking about the involvement of regional local authorities, it can definitely help to get them involved, because the brand of Council of Europe is somehow strong. And once you communicate to a local authority that the route is already certified, it somehow sounds better. And I would say it increases the chances that the local or regional authorities will at least consider it or think it's worth.
Thank you very much. I think it is also a good answer already to the question we had before from Anke Biedenkap, so how to involve them. A certification or a stamp is always a good thing. I think that provides the seriousness to such a project. But back to Magda, please. Maybe we go on.
Yes, thank you, Astrid. Thank you, Matouš. And now we will move on indeed to our next presentation. And that will be on the Film Festival on Cultural Roots. And we will hear the presentation from Luciano Toriello. But before we will see the presentation, I will ask Lotte to share a little clip.
Ho girato in queste zone ne conosco la bellezza. Penso che con il cinema si possano salvare i territori.
Thank you, Lotte. And do we have another clip that's going to be shared now, or are we now going to the presentation? Yes. The floor is yours.
Hello.
Hello, Luciano. You can go ahead.
Okay. My name is Luciano Toriello, and I am the CEO of MAD. Thank you for this opportunity, and my congratulations to other projects. Really interesting. MAD is a digital archive. MAD is a digital archive of audiovisual documents relating to the history of ethno-anthropological traditions of the territory of Puglia, about the 20th century to today. Over 15,000 hours of footage are present in the archive. With documentary cinema at the center, MAD is a film production and distribution house. Among the other initiatives that MAD organizes and promotes, there are also educational activities, reviews, and a festival in the sector. Among these, there is MOND, Film Festival on Cultural Roots. During the life course of the Green Pilgrimage project, the Puglia region project partner identified the two main good practice transferable to other regions. Cammino Materano, a slow itinerary that follows ancient paths and Rovers Road, and the MOND, Film Festival on Cultural Roots. And I'll speak about our story and development. 5 years ago, when we decided to activate MOND, we involved the Puglia region, a Puglia Film Commission, and the municipality of Monte Sant'Angelo, thinking that creating the film festival in Europe on the theme of cultural roots could slowly lead to important goals: enterprise, innovation, creativity, multidisciplinarity, and social responsibility. The social impact of cultural roots will activate through the enhancement of tangible and intangible assets present in its roots, new form of enterprise and social well-being. The concept of this festival is shaped by the idea of slow travel, which simultaneously takes on the role of source and aim of the event, the framing themes of travel, of traversing, of wandering, declined in all their nuances and acceptions, will be pivotal for the selection of the film on a schedule in the different sections. The aim of this best practice is also to promote the knowledge of the roots as a cultural and tourist attractor in less known territories, favoring seasonal adjustment and promoting form of sustainable tourism. Through this practice, it is possible to disseminate and involve potential tourists in choosing walking tourism. The section of MOND, the screening. The documentary on cultural roots, which is as yet little explored and bears great expressive possibilities, is met with great interest by the public that in some cases, indeed, is even charmed by it when the documentary succeeds in shedding light on the history of a place and of a cultural context, linking it to a dimension of freedom, and not only to the recovering of a tradition. The works. We organize during the festival 3 works in areas of historical, naturalistic, anthropological, and spiritual interest. At the points of arrival or along the paths of each work, musical performances, as well as short movie screening or theatrical and artistic performances. Another section is Gargano Doc. We create the School of Cinema on the cultural roots. During the fest and through practical and immersive activities, the school will focus on the practical and operational aspects of the travel documentary and the narration through images of the territory. MAP is the first archive in Europe on the memories of the pilgrims of the Via Francigena and the Michaelica. During the Green Pilgrimage study visit in Italy, participants of several nations contributed to the MAP archive through video message about memories of that experience. Two documentaries were born from these 2 experiences, Fiaba Galganica and Roots. You can find it on the MAD channel on YouTube. During the first 5 years of the festival, there were important developments, audience development. In fact, we work with the schools for participation in screening. After 5 years, the children also participate to the works and to the screening in the afternoon, and not only during school hours. During the previous edition, we made a documentary with the children, With My Eyes, con I miei occhi on YouTube. Another important fact is that many films and TV programs were shot in Monte Sant'Angelo. Padre Pio by Abel Ferrara is only last example, but about 10 audiovisual production shot in Monte Sant'Angelo in last year. This means significant economic return and publicity. The budget of MOND. As mentioned in the first slide, MOND partners are public and private. In this graph, which talks about last 3 editions, we see how the support of the Puglia region and the Puglia Film Commission has remained constant. An important growth of the municipality of Monte Sant'Angelo in this year. We have had a loss in the last year linked to Ente Parco Nazionale del Gargano, National Park of Gargano, which we hope to recover. But we have recovered this loss thanks to the new private sponsors. This only in the last 3 years, in which we have had the pandemic and the economic crisis linked to it. This makes us think that we have done a great job that will grow in vision. An important first step is told in the next and the last slide. Today, Monte Sant'Angelo is a candidate for Italian Capital of Culture 2025. And the Mond, Gargano Doc, MAD Archive, and the MAP are the center of the dossier that has cultural roads as his theme.
Thank you very much, Luciano, for a very interesting presentation and concept. There is a question from Agne Petrauskaite. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but well, thank you for the presentation. Do you think movie producers get attracted to the location only because of the cultural route?
I think not only for cultural roots, because the people that visit Monte Sant'Angelo in that day can look the naturalistic scenery and all cultural brand. We have 2 city UNESCO in Monte Sant'Angelo, and Monte Sant'Angelo is a small city. It's important for us to let know this important environment and scenery of
Heritage. Yeah.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask how many visitors do you usually have for the film festival?
Can you repeat, please? How many?
How many visitors are there usually?
About 2,000 people visit Monte Sant'Angelo in that period. And you have to consider that it's not a good touristic period for Monte Sant'Angelo usually. And in last 5 years, we create a tourism in that period.
Yeah, that is a very important point, I think. Creating these new offerings in the times where there is
Yes.
outside of the classic tourist season.
Usually hotels are closed, now are open.
That's a very good result, I think, in itself. So do we have any other questions? So if we don't have any other questions for our participants, then let me come to a conclusion. I would like to thank very much all our speakers today. And I would also like to take this opportunity to invite you to the last webinar of our series, which will take place on the 3rd of November next week, where we will discuss how to inspire policy change for water-linked heritage. And we will look at good practices from Breda in the Netherlands, Aarhus in Denmark, and Alicante in Spain, and we will explore how they have inspired pilot actions in Ravenna in Italy and Istergranum in Hungary. And also, just a reminder, please use our services, take the opportunity. I have talked about peer reviews a little bit. We offer the peer reviews and also matchmakings where we can address policy challenges that you have in your individual regions or municipalities. So please get in touch if you're interested. It is very easy. With this, I would like to close today's webinar. Just a reminder that there is a survey that will appear automatically as we close down this session, and we will be very grateful if you can fill that one out. It's very short. So thank you again to all our speakers, to Lotte and Astrid for the support and all the work that you've also put into making this happen. And thanks to our participants, and thanks for all your questions. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.